Greetings to everyone who is joining us today. First of all, I would like to welcome you on board Brand Institute of Forensics and Security. I welcome you most humbly, knowing that the decision you have made to study with us is a very good decision. And we are going to do our best, myself and fellow directors and fellow trainers and lecturers at Brand Institute of Forensics and Security, to ensure that we are able to reach your expectations as our student. And we know that through this training, you will gain valuable knowledge, valuable skills. You will learn from our experiences, and you will be able to grow your career as you intend to. Before I continue further, I would like to introduce myself briefly. My names are Mr. Wayne Magani Shukuru. I am a director at Brand Institute of Forensics and Security. And besides that, I am happy to say that I am a former KDF officer who served under the Kenya Air Force as an aircraft technician. After the Kenya Air Force, I joined also the hospitality industry in Kenya after diverting my career from aircraft engineering to criminology and security. I have worked for various leading five-star hotels in Kenya in the security department. I've worked for Serena, I've worked for Fairmont, Norfolk. I've also worked for Tribe Hotel, Village Market, both in management positions. I also happened to be very lucky and traveled to Republic of Maldives, where I also worked as a security manager and later as director of security in one of the leading resorts called Vela Private Island, and also at Joali Bay. Out of these experiences, I have gained a lot in terms of skills and knowledge as pertains to security, as pertains to securing people, as pertains to securing assets. And I value sharing this knowledge with our students. Besides that, I'm a holder of a Master of Science from Leicester University, UK, a holder of a bachelor's degree in Criminology and Security Studies from Egerton University, second class honors, and also a holder of several courses and certifications that I have undergone with the Kenya Institute of Studies in Criminal Justice, the US Embassy Nairobi, courses mainly related to prevention of terrorist attacks, or rather counterterrorism. I value this introduction because it shows you as a student that we shall be moving forward from a point of knowledge. My fellow lecturers are equally also very well versed with the subjects they are managing, the subjects they are handling. So I can say you are in safe hands. Now, let's come to today now, after introduction. We are going to be discussing occupational health and safety practices. Occupational health and safety practices. This is a very important topic because in the security management, occupational health and safety is part of security management. And in most organizations, issues related to occupational health and safety are managed by the security department, are managed by security professionals in coordination with the HR office, in coordination with the GM office, or in coordination with the director of operations, also involving other departments, mainly engineering, IT, and other departments that handle the safety and safety issues at the workplace. Therefore, occupational health and safety is a topic that is very relevant to you, and it is a requirement under the curriculum that we conduct these trainings that you undergo through occupational health and safety practices. For today's lesson, which is lesson number 1, we are going to do an introduction. And before we do an introduction, we are going to look at workplace hazards and risks. But before we look at workplace hazards and risks, we are going to look at the background information, what is the guidance, how do we get guidance on occupational health and safety. Therefore, we are going to start with an introduction where we say every workplace has hazards, and although there will be a nominated person for conducting formal risk assessment, it is still everyone's responsibility to be mindful of hazards in the workplace and minimize risk of them. Not all hazards are obvious, and they are unique to each workplace. This makes it difficult to immediately identify and protect employees from them. So we shall be talking about hazards, we shall be talking about risks, we shall be talking about identification of these hazards, we shall be talking about measures that you need to put in place to protect employees from these hazards. As relates to Kenya, each country has got their own rules related to occupational health and safety. And they have their own guidance and they have government regulations that enforce these rules. As pertains to Kenya, occupational safety and health is governed by the Occupational Safety and Health Act of 2007. This is an act of parliament which provides for safety, health, and welfare of workers and all persons lawfully present at workplaces. Occupational health and safety, or occupational health and safety, is a multidisciplinary practice dealing with all aspects of health and safety in the workplace, with a strong focus on preventing workplace hazards. Regulating agency of the Kenya government is a Directorate of Occupational Health and Safety Services. This department coordinates, it manages, it regulates all issues related to occupational safety and health at the workplace. The aim is to ensure we protect employees from hazards and risks that exist at the workplace. As we move along, we are going to differentiate between hazards and risks, and we shall look into these aspects or these concepts in detail. Now, Health and Safety Act requirements. Health and Safety Act requirements generally provide a safe workplace for all staff, identify and control hazards, outlines responsibilities of employees and staff, clearly states legal repercussions for failure to comply with the requirements. Legal repercussions for failure to comply with the requirements. When we talk about occupational safety and health at the workplace, we are talking about safety first. When we talk about safety first, we are talking about health, we are talking about protecting people, we are talking about preventive measures, we are talking about welfare, we are talking about employees, we are talking about mechanical hazards, we are talking about different types of hazards, including even fire hazards, including even medical hazards. So when we talk about hazards, when we talk about occupational health and safety, we are taking into consideration all the things that I have mentioned briefly here. Therefore, everything we do, we have to put safety first. Everything we do, we have to put safety first, and that is very important to occupational health and safety. Under the Act, there are duties of the employer. The employer has got some responsibilities under the Act. And I will go through these responsibilities one by one. Ensure the safety, health, and welfare at work of all persons working at the workplace. So the employer, number one, has to ensure the safety and health and welfare of workers. This includes A, provide and maintain plant and systems and procedures of work that are safe without risks to health. Ensure safety and absence of risks to health in connection with the use, handling, storage, and transport of articles and substances. Provide to employees and other people at the workplace information, instruction, training, and supervision as is necessary to ensure the safety and health at workplace of every person employed. Those are some of the, number one, the duties of the employer to ensure the safety, health, and welfare at work of all persons working at the workplace. In addition to that, under that requirement, the employer has a duty to maintain the workplace in a condition that is safe and without risks to health. Provide and maintain means of access to and egress from the workplace. Egress is exit. Access mainly means entry. Provide and maintain a working environment for every person employed that is safe without risks to health and adequate as regards to facilities and arrangements for employees' welfare at work. The employer also has a duty of informing all persons employed of any risks from new technologies, imminent danger. Ensure that every person employed participates in the application and practices and review of safety and health measures. So the employer has got these duties, and these duties are mandatory under the law. If it is established beyond reasonable doubt that a particular employer is not abiding by these regulations, then that calls for legal sanctions. Duties of the employer still, number 2, is to carry out appropriate risk assessments, number 3, in relation to safety and health of persons employed. Carry out appropriate risk assessment. And do you know who carries out these risk assessments? It is the security department, led by the security manager and his security officers. They have a responsibility to carry out these risk assessments. There is also usually a committee that is involved in this risk assessment, the Occupational Health and Safety Committee. However, the leader in most cases, in most organizations of this committee, is the security manager. Adopt preventive and protective measures to ensure that under all conditions of their intended use, all chemicals, machinery, and equipment, tools, and processes under the control of the employer are safe and without risks to health. Send a copy of a report of risk assessments carried out under this section to the area occupational safety and health officer. So you see, if you are a security manager, if you are a security officer, and you have been tasked with the responsibility to carry out a risk assessment, you have to compile a report, and the report will detail all the areas you think contain hazards and risks to employees. And then also, the employer has to take immediate steps to stop any operation or activity where there is an imminent and serious danger to safety and health, and to prevent and to health, and to evacuate all persons employed as appropriate, and then register his workplace unless such workplace is exempted from registration under this act. So all workplaces must be registered. The employer must take immediate steps to stop any operations that may pose danger to employees or people within the facility. These are some of the duties of the employer. The employer still has a duty to prepare a safety and health policy statement. You go to all organizations, you'll find there is a safety and health policy statement. It is the responsibility of the employer. And when we talk about these issues, please keep in mind it is the responsibility of security, though in consultation with other departments, but the buck stops with security. It is the duty of the employer to prepare a written statement with respect to the safety and health at workplace of his employees and the organization, to bring the statement and any revision of it to the notice of all employees. The statement looks like that. And remember, when you prepare this statement, you make drafts. You send to the general manager for review and for approval, or to operations director for review and approval. So it is not that you just make a policy and you post without it being approved by the top management. Safety and health audits are also the responsibility of the employer. The employer is responsible for a thorough safety and health audit of the workplace, to be carried out at least once in every period of 12 months by a safety and health advisor, who shall issue a report of such an audit. The audit report referred to in Section 1 shall be preserved and be kept available for inspection by the Occupational Safety and Health Officer. An employer who fails to comply with a duty imposed on him under this section commits an offense. So carry out safety and health audits. Discrimination against employee. The employer shall not dismiss an employee, injure the employee, or discriminate against or disadvantage an employee in respect of the employee's involvement in occupational health and safety. An employee who makes a complaint about a matter which the employee considers is not safe or is a risk to his health. If the employee is a member of the Safety and Health Committee established in accordance with this Act, and if the employee exercises any of his functions as a member of the Safety and Health Committee. So the employer is strictly warned and strictly guided not to discriminate against employee on an aspect of reporting dangerous issues, on an aspect of involvement in occupational health and safety committees, on an aspect of being a member of this committee. The employer has got no right to discriminate against you as an employee. Then there, at every workplace, it is also required that the employer shall establish a safety and health committee at the workplace. The committee members will be nominated from each department of the organization. So organizations, we have various departments which come together with the aim of meeting the objective and the goals and the vision and the mission of the organization. So these employee departments from various departments, nominees are selected to form the Occupational Health and Safety Committee. From the finance department, from the HR department, from the operations department, from the security department, who are the leaders of this committee, and other engineering department, and all other departments, people are nominated to form the safety and health committee at each workplace. Functions and activities of the safety and health committees, including the election of safety representatives, their rights and duties, and for the training of the members, will be carried out by the security manager. You see, be carried out by the security manager. Duties of employee. Also, even as employers have duties, you as an employee also you have duties. And your duty number one is every employee while at the workplace must ensure his own safety and health. You must ensure your own safety and health and that of other persons who may be affected by your actions or omissions at the workplace. You must cooperate with your employer or any other person in the discharge of any duty or requirement imposed on the employer or that other person by this act or regulation made hereunder. You must act at all times wear or use any protective equipment or clothing provided by the employer for the purpose of preventing risks to your safety and the safety of others. You must also comply with the safety and health procedures, requirements, and instructions given by a person having authority over you for your own person and other people's safety. You must also report to the supervisor any situation which you think may have a reason to believe will present a hazard and which you cannot correct. You must report to your supervisor any accident or injury. You must cooperate with the employer or any other person to enable that duty or requirement to be performed or complied with. An employee who contravenes the provisions of this section commits an offense and shall on conviction be liable to a fine. The duties of employees, as we continue: report all injuries, ensure the workplace is safe, participate in health and occupational health committees, follow the regulations, ensure that you report risks, ensure that safety comes first, ensure that you protect yourself and you protect others by the acts that you commit or the omissions. This is a part of what we call safety management. It involves a lot of issues, and it is your responsibility together with the employer to ensure that people are safe at the workplace. And then you also have a duty to report any dangerous situation. We have already spoken about that. You have a duty to report any dangerous situation. You don't see naked electrical cables and you don't report. You do not see big holes left unattended where work is ongoing without the proper signage. You have to report these things. For example, sometimes employees dig trenches at their workplace in line of repairing sewage lines or hydrant systems, and then they fail to place warning signs to inform people that there is imminent danger. You have to ensure that this one happens. Then you also have a duty not to interfere with or misuse things provided pursuant to certain provisions. A person who willfully interferes with or misuses any means, appliance, convenience, or other thing provided or done in the interest of safety, health, and welfare in pursuance of this act commits an offense. You are prohibited against creation of hazards. You should not create hazards. No person shall engage in any improper activity or behavior at the workplace which might create or constitute a hazard to that person or any other person. Improper activity or behavior includes boisterous play, scuffling, fighting, practical jokes, unnecessary running or jumping, or similar conduct. You have to stay away from these things. Professionally, as a security manager for many years, I don't encourage these kind of things. This unnecessary running, unnecessary jumping, unnecessary misconduct, what we call practical jokes at the workplace. These things are not encouraged because at the end of the day, you are putting your health and safety in danger and the health and safety of fellow employees and fellow workers into jeopardy. And you must be punished accordingly for engaging in this kind of practical jokes. And then let's take a break. We take a break for 1 minute, and then we can continue. We can then continue from there. After this little break, we continue. The value of a good safety and health program. So there should be a safety and health program at every workplace, which is guided by the Occupational Health and Safety Committee, which we say is the responsibility of the employer to put in place this, and the security manager takes the lead. Now, a good, effectively managed worker safety and health program can be a big factor in reducing work-related injuries and illness and their related costs. Four general elements critical to a successful safety and health management program. These are management, leadership, and employee involvement. When management and employee are involved in the program, then it's likely going to succeed. And then an analysis of workplace hazards through a risk assessment. We said this is the job of security to conduct risk assessments, and then we say use of hazard prevention and control initiatives, and then safety and health training. Remember, there are other big multi-organizations that have a security manager, and also they have an occupational health and safety manager. So where we have an occupational safety and health manager, then he is the responsibility for these activities. However, in consultation with the security manager and also in consultation with the engineering manager. So take note of that in some organizations, it will not directly be the responsibility of the security manager. It may be the responsibility of occupational health and safety officer or occupational health and safety manager. Even in some organizations, these activities are conducted through the human resource office. It depends with the policies and procedures of work and the structures, organizational structures at every particular workplace. Then also, a good occupational health and safety program enables to identify and plan for all workplace hazards. It is good practice to proactively assess all potential hazards that exist within the hotel or workplace. I mentioned hotel as a reference before making any effort to eliminate or reduce their effects. It is also important to develop a safety plan that tells employees what is being done to keep them safe from harm, where potential for risk lies, and what is expected from employees to ensure their own safety and the safety of others. If the tasks involves strenuous work, it is recommended to install an on-site defibrillator. This is a defibrillator is an equipment that is used to resuscitate somebody. And instead of conducting CPR, normal way we do, an artificial defibrillator is an equipment that is used to give electric shock to somebody who has got a heart problem or who is suffering from a cardiac arrest. The defibrillator is a device that gives a high energy electric shock to heart of someone who is in cardiac arrest. And then of great importance is training. Train workforce. If there is even the slightest risk of injury with a certain type of job, proper training is requisite. Not providing training means that we are not only endangering staff safety, but also we are likely to be held liable for any incidents. Staff or employee handbooks where all health and safety measures are inducted are required. Keep your staff informed and involve them in health and safety processes. Train and supervise staff. That is a responsibility also of the workplace. Safety culture. Then it is also important to create a safety culture within the company. Get into a mindset in which safety isn't an afterthought, but a part of the business that is just as important as customer service and marketing. Management should meet regularly with the staff regarding health and safety issues. Staff should provide ideas and input on how to improve workplace safety. Provide first aid training so that staff are prepared to deal with emergency situations that may strike suddenly. So even you as an employee, it is important you have the basics of first aid. How do you manage a person who has suddenly collapsed? How do you manage a person who has suffered an injury and this person is bleeding? How do you offer first aid before this person is taken for specialized treatment? Because first aid is the initial treatment given to a casualty or a person to save life, to prevent the situation from getting worse, to minimize damage, and to evacuate this person to specialized treatment. Safety culture is important. Then take ownership of any health and safety incidents. Investigations are very important. Logging of all accidents is very important. No matter how minor. Set up a plan to prevent the accident from happening again. Maintain records of all issues in order to identify any trends and rectify them. Keep a log of any incidences will also demonstrate that we have shown due diligence to our employees' safety. This could help prove that we are not liable for the accident. Record all accidents and report all serious injuries to the Occupational Safety and Healthy Services or committee. It is required that under the security department you keep a log, and this log is also kept also at the HR office of incidents that occur. Accidents, no matter how minor, they must be logged, and a record of this must be kept because we learn from these records, and it may come a time when we face legal issues and we can easily defend the organization from blame if these logs are existing. Requirements for emergencies, means of egress. I said egress is exit. Employee emergency plans and fire prevention plans must be in existence. Hazardous materials, process safety management of highly hazardous materials at the workplace, hazardous waste operations, and emergency response. You as a security officer, you must be able during your patrols to conduct process safety management of highly hazardous chemicals and identify where they are. And then also ensure people are using protective personal equipment, eye and face protection, respiratory protection, occupational head protection, occupational foot protection, and even hand protection. This is very important because especially where people work with the hazardous materials, hazardous chemicals, dangerous machinery, they have to use for personal protective equipment. Then also general environmental controls, permit required to entry to confined spaces, control of hazardous energy sources, medical and first aid, medical services and first aid, fire protection and fire brigades is very important. Fire suppression equipment must be in existence. Fire detection systems must exist and must be serviceable. Employee alarm systems, employee must exercise, we must conduct drills, employee must know the sound of fire alarms. And then general Safety provisions. Vessels containing dangerous liquids must be contained and secured properly. Storage is very important. Ladders are very, very important. Ergonomics at the workplace. Ergonomics are conditions of the work area. For example, sitting positions, operating areas. Ergonomics affect somebody's health, and it is one of the things that we are going to learn during this course. And then safe means of access and place of employment. And then fire prevention, I repeat, and then precautions in place where dangerous fumes are likely. Precautions with respect to explosives or inflammable dust or gas, and then safety provisions in case of fire, and then evacuation procedures. These are requirements that must be at the workplace. And then machinery also, safe use of plant, machinery and equipment, prime mowers, transmission machinery, other machinery, handheld and portable power tools and equipment, self-acting machines, hoists and lifts, chains, ropes and lifting tackle, steam boilers, steam receivers and steam containers, refrigeration plants. All these are things that must be taken into consideration. Remember here, engineering department plays a very major role because engineering department, they deal mainly with these machines. They handle mainly these machines. They provide these machines for use by employees. So the engineering department also plays a very important role here. And then also, what are the most common hazards in the workplace? The word hazard and risk are often used interchangeably. However, they don't mean the same thing. Hazard is any object, situation, or behavior that has the potential to cause injury, ill health, or damage to property or the environment. A hazard is something that can cause harm, e.g., electricity, chemicals, walking up a ladder, noise, a keyboard, a bully at workplace, stress, etc. These are hazards. Hazards are things that can cause harm. Then risk. The potential for loss, taking into account likelihood, impact, and vulnerability. A risk is the chance, high or low, that any hazard will actually cause somebody harm. A risk is the chance, high or low, the chance, high or low, that any hazard will actually cause someone bodily harm. So learn to differentiate those two words. Hazard, it is an object or a situation or a behavior that is likely to cause harm or injury. And then risk is the chance that this is very high chance and this is low chance. So you learn to differentiate hazard and risk. And then examples of a hazard and a risk. For example, working alone away from your office can be a hazard. The risk of personal danger may be high. Electric cabling is a hazard if it has snagged on a sharp object. The exposed wiring places it in a high risk category. So hazard is something that or behavior or situation that may cause injury or harm. And then a risk is the chance that the hazard will occur and it will cause harm or injury. Then we talk about the six main categories of hazards are biological hazards include viruses, bacteria, insects, animals, etc. that can cause adverse health impacts, for example, mold, blood, and other bodily fluids, harmful plants, sewage, dust, and vermin. Chemical hazards. Chemical hazards are hazardous substances that can cause harm. These hazards can result in both health and physical impacts, such as skin irritation, respiratory system irritation, blindness, corrosion, and explosions. And then we have physical hazards. Physical hazards are environmental factors that can harm employee without necessarily touching them, including heights, noise, radiation, and pressure. And then also we say another, the fourth hazard category of hazard are safety. These are hazards that create unsafe working conditions. For example, exposed wires or damaged carpet might result in tripping hazard. These are sometimes included under the category of physical hazards. And then ergonomic, I mentioned that word. Ergonomic hazards are a result of physical factors that can result in musculoskeletal injuries. For example, a poor workstation setup in an office, poor posture, and manual handling. For example, how you carry heavy objects. There's a way you can kneel, you can bend down straight, or there's a way you can pick or hold the item from the floor and carry it up. So this is what we call ergonomic factors. And then there is also psychosocial hazards include those that can have an adverse effect on an employee's mental health or well-being. Remember, mental health is a big issue, especially here in the US. Mental health is a big issue. For example, sexual harassment, victimization, stress, and workplace violence. And then management of hazards at the workplace. The organization can face financial or custodial penalties if the management neglects the responsibility to protect employees. Management should carry out an appropriate risk assessment. We spoke about that. Introduce appropriate controls in order to reduce or eliminate the identified hazards, e.g., installing fall prevention equipment when cleaning windows. Appropriately train all employees in their duties. Training is very important to employees. You'll find in some employees, you report to work, you are deployed to your workplace, but you are not given proper guidance on how to ensure that you are safe in line of duty. And then after that, we are going to ask you to briefly look at this picture. If you have a phone, you can take a snapshot of this picture and then you think about it. And if you are together with your colleague, you discuss. These are hazards, but which kind of hazards are these? Which kind of hazards are these? Which kind of hazard is number 1? Which kind of hazard is number 3? Which kind of hazard is this last one? So this is just an area where I would like you to focus and to think about it as we prepare for our next topic, which I believe will be identification of hazards at the workplace. So these are some of the hazards we are talking about. Thank you so much. I hope that you are in good position with this introduction. Remember, there are acts that govern occupational health and safety in various countries. These acts are different, but they all focus on hazards and risks. You'll find that the wording is a little bit different, but if you look at it closely and if you think at it closely, you see that they are actually similar. So with those few remarks, I want to say thank you very much. I will see you again in the next lesson. Bye-bye.